Next up, we have Rebecca Klein and Scott Nauman. Rebecca is the statewide control room engineer at Wisconsin DOT, and Scott is a TMC operations manager at AECOM. They'll be talking about Wisconsin DOT's practices for managing TMC operator performance.
Thank you, Rashad. First of all, I'd like to introduce Scott Nauman, just as what Rashad was saying. He is the TMC operations manager for AECOM on site at WIS.TMC. Our TMC is 24/7, 365 and statewide. We have 3 shifts, 6 a.m., 2 p.m., and 10 p.m. AECOM is contracted to provide control room staffing, which includes 18 full-time employees, 9 operators, 3 shift supervisors, 3 specialists, 2 are for the flex line, and then we have 1 QA/QC specialist. Then we also have 1 lead operator and trainer, 1 assistant manager, which is a new position, and then 1 operations manager, which is Scott. AECOM has been our partner in the TMC for over 10 years. Back to you, Scott.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, thanks, Rebecca, and thanks for the opportunity to really present today. So we can click forward 1 slide, please. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about managing operator performance through our audit program, which I'll walk through and talk a little bit more about in the next few slides. So training is a big part of our operator performance process, and I know it's been definitely a theme that's been talked about on this call quite a bit as well. So kind of show off how this tool really helps us to support overall staff training. Really the primary function or primary purpose of our audit program and process is to ensure quality, accuracy, consistency, and of course, continuous improvement. So right now, we're in about the 3rd version of our audit program. So this kind of all started out around 2016. Our first version of our audit program was a Microsoft Access database. You can kind of see that screenshot on the lower right-hand corner of your screen, which worked well for us. However, there were some challenges with keeping that updated as we wanted to look at new metrics and new processes, customizing that to be able to provide us, valuable reporting. Prior to 2016, we were still performing audits, but it was more paper document based. So really kind of moving that into the digital era, right? Second version of it got rid of Microsoft Access in place of Microsoft Excel. Focused a lot on the processes and the different steps that our operators are taking during an incident. That was also linked to a Power BI dashboard or Power BI report. The third version and our current version, which we'll talk a little bit more about as we go through these couple slides, is still Microsoft Excel based. And the one thing that we looked at adding was not only looking at the steps that the operators are taking, but also getting an idea of how long it's taking them to enter in information or get information sent out to the public. Now, with that being said, we certainly still want to ensure quality, and that's a lot more important than timeliness. But it does help give us an idea of how long it's taking for different incident types to get ATMS events put out or put in, email notifications sent out, things like that. So as we were going through and kind of getting towards version 3 of our audit program, we created a number of test events, some of those lower impact, lower severity up to the highest. And we shared those among new staff that have been here for a while, and some of our more senior staff, and kind of got some ideas of timeframes and kind of built an average out of that. So again, really the focus is still on quality, but it does help us to get an idea, right? We want to make sure that if we got called about a serious event and it took a half hour to get entered into our ATMS system, we want to kind of find out why that was happening. So the audits are conducted by our quality specialist, like Rebecca mentioned. That's a newer position that we have over the past couple of years, and our shift supervisors. So we do have those 3 shift supervisors. Our quality specialist primarily focuses on the focuses on the after the fact audits. And our supervisors are looking at real-time audits. So as an event is taking place, they're going through and making sure that all the steps have been completed and are accurate. We're looking at doing about 10 audits per week by our quality specialist, and then 3 from our shift supervisors. And of course, it's staffing and workload dependent. And then ensuring that each team member gets audited during the course of a month. So we can click forward one slide, please. So this is what our audit, the current version of our audit form looks like. You can just see there, I'm not going to go through every category, but the top part is general information. Each audit is assigned a unique audit number. And the top part also has general information just on the location of the incident, who's auditing it, which operator handled the incident, etc. We move down to things like the ATMS event, DMS, or portable changeable message sign messaging, an API response for text that goes out to the public via 511 and other resources or other sources. One area I want to kind of focus on, if we can click forward one more. This is our total score field. So you can see that each category that we're looking at or that we're auditing has an individual score or subscore associated with it. If there's a section that maybe doesn't apply for the specific incident, in this case, DMS messaging, that's not included and that doesn't reflect on the total score. Scoring is color coded as well, so it makes it easy to see what areas we did really well, what areas potentially could need improvement. And if we click forward one more. The other thing that I wanted to highlight too is that each of the sections and categories, we have the ability to adjust the weighting of that score. And that goes from 1 being the highest to 5 being the lowest. Because we've noticed that there's situations where maybe one action was more important given a certain incident than, let's say, another action. So our auditors and supervisors can go through and make those adjustments. However, we do have default weighting set up on that audit form, just as standard levels. We can click through to the next one, please. And this just shows the second page of that audit form with some of the additional categories that we're looking at. We do have a comments and notes section at the bottom, which allows our auditors to provide additional information, additional context about the incident. Maybe we were working a winter snowstorm and things were really busy, which is why it took a little bit longer to either get an event put in or email notification sent out. We also use that section to outline any follow-up steps that we've had either with the operator that handled it or the shift supervisor. Next slide, please. So this is page 1. I mentioned we have a Power BI audit dashboard. This is page 1 of that. And this just shows overall scores. You can see the average on the top left-hand corner there of our total audit scores over any particular date range. We have breakdowns by each shift. We're looking at audited events by type. Right now, we're primarily focusing on incidents. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a future slide. You can see the number of audits that were performed by the auditor and also how many audits were completed on individual staff on the lower left-hand side of the screen. And again, this gives us the ability to filter down by specific shifts. We can even look at specific operators and the dashboard will update appropriately. This is just what the second page of that looks like. So this gets more into the individual categories. You can kind of see on the upper middle side of the screen, we can select between API response, ATMS events, cross-shift data transfer, DMS usage, etc. Again, giving us a breakdown by month, by shift. And then at the very bottom, you can see averages for that individual category. So again, we can kind of click through these and select different areas and see what our scores are looking like either on an individual shift or individual operator basis. And this is the final page of the actual audit dashboard. And this gets us down a little bit further, it drills us down a little further. When we're looking at the individual categories, let's say DMS usage on the lower left there, you can see the individual questions and what the scoring looks like for that particular time period. So again, this gives us a nice view that we can look at to see what areas we're doing well on, what areas we maybe want to focus on for training, for improvement under each of those individual categories. So audit results, what are we doing with the audit results? So again, the big focus of that is training, making sure that everybody is performing. at a high level, that we're providing them the tools and resources that they need to be able to do their job and do it successfully. Right now, our audit results are shared primarily internal to management. So our quality specialist has monthly meetings that include Rebecca, our statewide control room engineer, myself, and generally some others on the team. We look at how many audits were completed over the past month, kind of higher level, what scores we're seeing, what's going really well, what areas maybe need to be improved upon. After that, quality specialist meets with the individual shift supervisors to kind of provide them an overview and a report on how their shift was doing. Same thing, anything that's going really well, any areas that we want to focus on for improvement. The shift supervisors are working with their team to get those implemented, and we're keeping an eye on those to make sure that we're seeing improvements in those areas. And of course, again, sharing what went well. We have a monthly program meeting. It's actually coming up tomorrow for us. So we share kind of the trends that we're seeing with our audits through those meetings to help get people up to date and see what we need to focus on. We do have an annual operator certification and recertification process. So that's a good opportunity for us to take any of the findings that we're seeing from the audits and tie those into questions or scenarios that we can present during our recertification process. Really identifying gaps in SOPs. This has been a big one for us. There's things that are kind of unwritten procedures, that folks on our team know about, but aren't necessarily documented. So we can get those updated in our SOPs. Are there any new procedures that we need to identify things? Are there low scores that we're seeing? And when we talk to staff, they weren't aware of how they should be doing it, or if they're supposed to be doing it a certain way. We can get those new SOPs written and turned around pretty quick. And then of course, identifying just additional training needs or gaps, whether it's just in our entire training process or like we talked about the SOPs, et cetera. So yeah, that's really helped us a lot. Just continuing to improve, continuing to train, continuing to do better, a little bit better each day is kind of what we always talk about here. So if we can move to the next slide, please. Yeah, so just looking at kind of next steps and future enhancements. One of the nice things that we would be looking at doing is potentially integrating that audit form into our ATMS. Right now, the supervisors and the quality specialists are using our ATMS reports primarily to look up the information and populate that Excel spreadsheet. Definitely automation would be a nice future enhancement. AI is certainly a hot topic right now. So looking at how AI could be used to either help kind of parse through those audit results and look for trends, or even, help to populate and add to some of that automation. That audit report that we just talked about in Power BI, looking to transition that over to Tableau. Tableau is better supported among our team here. So we're looking at making that transition happen. Looking at auditing additional types of events, right? So I mentioned that primarily most of our audits that we're doing are on incidents. We have the ability to do, special events, planned events. We have our dynamic part-time shoulder, our flex lane. We'd like to start auditing that. Some of our missing persons alerts that we do, those amber and silver alerts, doing some auditing for those. Again, dashboard, getting that information real time, getting that presented, out to folks, start sharing that a little bit more, see how we're doing on a real time basis. And then every year we put together a annual report for our TMC. It'd be really great to start getting that information into the annual report, whether it's, those accuracy numbers or even tying in some of those times that we're looking at where we could say, 95% of the time, et cetera, 98% of the time we had DMS boards activated within the first, 3 minutes or whatever of an incident, whatever the case may be. So those are definitely handy and useful information that we'd like to get out into that report as well. So with that, that's all I had. Turn it over to Rashad.
Thank you very much. All of those presentations were excellent. Right now, we're going to open it up to Q&A. If any questions weren't posed during these presentations, some were answered. Hopefully all of them were answered, I believe. If you have any other questions, please feel free to put it in the Q&A pod. And we'll look to get some answers for you. Any questions like any tools or methods that weren't mentioned in any of these, or management's perception? It's not in the Q&A pod, but I think we have a question from Brian. And Brian, is this to anyone in particular, or is it to all the presenters? Okay, to anyone. If anyone would like to answer this question, do you incorporate customer service or stakeholder feedback in TMC performance measurement? I believe Rebecca is typing an answer. Not sure if it's to Brian's question or Johan's question. Johan is a separate question in the Q&A box. Brian, I'm just trying to get yours responded to.
So Rashad, I'll give my opinion on actually both of those questions. As far as I'll start with the recruiting. I don't know if recruiting is as big of the problem, and MaryAnn, you can jump in if you want, but it's more so the retention. We've been having issues retaining employees. In fact, that's one of the things that we're trying to work on to prevent them from jumping on to other, I guess, ventures. And we've got a few ideas. I don't know, MaryAnn, if you want to go into that or not, but staff retention has been one of the biggest issues, because that when you don't retain staff, then you don't develop staff, and then those error rates that we're talking about tend to compound. And before I get to the next one, MaryAnn, if you want to chime in.
Yes. So what we've noticed is that it's not necessarily the recruiting, it's just everybody coming in. Not everyone fully understands what the TMC is or what they do. So when we get people coming in, they're just thinking like, oh, it's just a general job. And then when they realize everything that they have to do, they're just kind of like, this is not for me or whatever. I'm curious to know if there was ever a plan to do like a national certification for the TMCs. That way, everyone understands, like, it's a way to get everybody out there understanding like, oh, okay, this is a national thing. So if you're certified in a TMC, you can go anywhere with it. That would be really great. Preferred educational background. We don't limit it to like degrees or whatever, as long as you have a high school diploma or GED. I had no knowledge in TMC at all when I started. I didn't even know my directions on the interstate. And then I just kind of like, I've had different jobs throughout my life, but I'm obsessed with TMC stuff now. It's like all I talk about, and I try to recruit people. But it's just basically getting the knowledge out of what your TMC does. And we are working on that with all of our other stakeholders and our DOTD customer service, hopefully to get them to kind of do like a little, media blurb on what the TMC is and what we do and how people can apply and go from there.
So, Rashad, the other question from Brian concerning the incorporating customer service or stakeholder feedback in TMC performance measurement. I don't know if it's actually directly one of our performance metrics, but I know fairly recently, and again, this goes back to the issue with the turnover issue that we've had recently. I went to what I deemed as our internal customers, our PIO, our maintenance contract, as well as just the districts, et cetera, and really solicited feedback, and from that try to use in our monthly TMC meetings that we hold. That was the basis for discussion. Say, hey, what are we doing with this? I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. How can we go forward? What type of training is needed to get better?
Piggyback on what MaryAnn was saying, I was a mechanic before I came into TMC operations. I had no idea what I didn't know who put up the signs. Like I knew nothing about this center. So in our recruiting, we're no longer contracted. We're actually, all my operators now state, but when they were contracted, and also on our applications now for state positions, we also don't require anything. Like she said, high school diploma, a valid driver's license though, because it is emergency operations, and they need to be able to get, to these centers when they're needed. But no prior experience is needed for us as well, just to piggyback off of that. Thank you, Ryan and MaryAnn. Thank you for Rebecca for responding in the pod as well. We do have a few questions that she has responded to as well. Performance measures used to adjust payout or bonuses was posed by an anonymous attendee. Rebecca then responded for WisDOT, that's completely dependent on AECOM, and MaryAnn responded for Louisiana, that is determined by Serco. They use the performance metrics to determine raises. We have another open question by an anonymous attendee in the Q&A pod. Have the performance efforts resulted in incentivizing operators? Actually, it looks like it got answered. Thank you, Rebecca, for responding as well. Have the performance efforts resulted in incentivizing operators to take on ownership of system performance? In other words, not only do performing actions, but looking at it as managing the system to improve safety and mobility for the public and freight. And Rebecca responded, not yet, as our current focus is on providing quality and current information to the public. Our operators are constantly working with our ATMS provider to ensure quality operations of our ATMS. John has posed several questions in the chat, not the Q&A pod. Did I miss his first one? Well, I see. Have any of the states run into issues with staff having the performance monitoring and reporting with agency staff, or are the practices only applicable to the contractors providing these services? If anyone wants to jump in and handle that one, that'd be great. If not, I can't speak on contractors for Maryland because, again, we're all state now. I don't have a contractor. But as far as performance monitoring, I did create a position that handles that. He's my training and certification manager. I have two operations managers. One oversees the statewide operations center. One oversees all of my TOCs, which are the traffic operations centers that are located in our state police barracks across the states. But all of that is being put on the shoulders of my new training and certification manager. We have one open in the pod. Do any other speakers, states have a thought on the managing the system question? I'm not sure which question that is on the managing the system question. Again, if no one else wants to jump in there, I can speak for Maryland. I, myself, and my new training and certification manager speak directly with, we have a proprietary system. Our ATMS was created and is managed in-house and in conjunction with University of Maryland. Their CAT lab is very helpful with that and developing that. So we have meetings every Tuesday, and if anything's brought to myself or my training and certification manager or any one of my managers, they bring it to me or him, and we speak directly with our systems engineers and the person that handles our ATMS personally. Again, in the chat, please try to keep your questions in the Q&A pod. It is a little bit more helpful to keep track of. We have, which is the preferred educational background? I think we touched on that one. We have, in Florida, we have developed an automated software that tracks events that are assigned to operators and the time frame it takes for the operator to move it along to the next phase in the event recording. The software also reminds the operator that an event is waiting to move along to the next phase when it is lingering. TMC management runs reports daily to review how many events were handled by each operator and how each operator was graded. This software was aimed at grading, but also reminding the operators during the course of an event. Is anyone else using this type of automated software? I'd like for anyone to jump in there. That'd be great. I'm not sure that many states are using very automated software. I think North Carolina might have touched on some a little bit. In Maryland, I'm trying to get our proprietary system to a more automated system. We have made leaps and bounds in that everything is contained in one unit. I've seen a lot of other TMCs have several sections of their ATMS, and they have to work in conjunction. But I have not seen anybody else doing that, like as Florida proposed. Rebecca stated that Wisconsin does not use an automated software that tracks events, which goes along with what my observation has been. I haven't seen a whole lot of other states doing that.
Hey, Rashad, I have a question. I was just curious if any of the other states are using AI in their detection for events. I know that's something we've had companies contact us concerning, but I'm just curious if any of the other states are actually doing it and how they're finding it working.
Great question, Ryan.
Hi, Ryan. This is Rebecca from Wisconsin. We're just starting now to look into AI for automatic incident detection. There was a kickoff meeting this past Monday, but unfortunately I had to attend the pre-meeting to this. But I think we are going to be implementing it on, or just for experimental at the time, I think like 20 or 25 different sites. So I can provide some details in the future, but I don't have any information at this time otherwise.
Sure, if you can, definitely get that to MaryAnn or Ty.
Sure, once I know something, or once we kind of have it more deployed and checking in the field, yep, I can provide that information.
Joseph did respond. They're using AID software, automated incident detection software in Florida, and it's being used in several other states. Here in Maryland, we don't have it implemented yet. We are still building it out in some of our ITS devices along a certain section of 695, which encompasses Baltimore, the Baltimore region. There's a section of that, which includes in 2022, there was an incident that was probably almost all the TMSs understand happened with 6 workers in a work zone. But that is our section that includes the new devices that will implement AI and automated incident detection software. They're in that zone that should be going live next year. We'll see if that happens, because the time frame keeps getting pushed back. But yeah, we are planning on that. An anonymous attendee: is there any career path for operators for those who may want to stay? I can speak on that. At Maryland, we have 7 different levels. So our operators are called highway operations technicians by title. You start off as a hot 1, and after a certain amount of time, you can then test up to highway operator 2. We also have highway operations technician 3, which is a team leader. Then the 4th level is a supervisor. And like I said, I as a contractor, I started in 2014 as a highway operations technician 1. I have moved up to supervisor by 2018, manager by 2020, and division chief by 2022. So in Maryland, there's tons of mobility here.
In Wisconsin, we have been, since I've been here, we have been trying to provide different opportunities for our control room operators to promote. I'm going to call it like the lowest levels is going to be the control room operator. Then we've got a lead operator that is also a trainer. Then above the trainer is going to be a QA QC specialist or a flex lane specialist. And then on top of that, you've got the ship supervisor. And then we just created a new position for assistant manager. which one of the ship supervisors took. So now we've got a ship supervisor position open. So we are trying to make sure that our control room operators have the opportunity to advance when we do have openings.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Any other questions want to be posed in the Q&A pod? Take a couple more minutes for that. Otherwise, there are various places that you can reach out to people. I believe any of these presenters, along with myself, you have our email addresses and you can reach out if you have any questions that follow up once we conclude this session. It's looking like we might be all questioned out. If there are no more questions, I believe we can move on. Thank you very much. Here we have our completed work products from the pool fund study. Things such as managing TMS assets, assessing and reporting on TMS capabilities and performance, predictive analytics. These are all recently completed projects that you can find on the Pool Fund Study website. That address is found below. Thank you, Kyla, for putting that in the chat. All of those reports will be on the completed projects page, as she just put it in the chat there. And it is at the bottom of your screen as well. Our upcoming webinars in this series, again, be on the lookout for these announcements at the NOCO on the NOCO website, and for our upcoming NOCO webinars. If you are interested in being a speaker or moderator or host in an upcoming webinar, please contact John Hochberger. Again, he is our liaison at FHWA for the Pool Fund Study. These are upcoming topics, again, that we'll be touching on moving forward. You can reach out to John Hochberger or Kathy Thompson. They've both been very beneficial in handling these. We can move forward, please. Again, that is the NOCO website. You can find ideas, you can submit ideas, research topics, our TMS portal, as well as plenty of other information that you'll find on the NOCO website under that page. And Kayla, I think we can go to the closing poll.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Rashad. I'm going to put a poll question in here, just asking for any thoughts on future webinars. Okay, share this one. Okay. So just if there's any information, resources, or research conducted that you'd like to see that are not currently available in that TMS portal, you can share some information there. And then if there's any additional TMS emerging topics that you would like to see, just always great to get information collected from everyone who attends these webinars. So we'll just leave that open for a minute or so, and then we'll just wrap up. But I do want to say, thanks so much to Rashad for moderating, and for our panelists, Les Jacobson, Samir Nazarvik, Ryan Reviere, MaryAnn Nickles, Rebecca Klein, and Scott Nauman. Those were really informative presentations, so just really appreciate everyone's attendance and participation today. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, a recorded version of the webinar will be available on the NOCO website probably in the next week or so. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, just thanks so much for participating today, and stay tuned for future webinars. So I'll leave this poll open. I think we're wrapping up here. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. All the presentations were great. Plenty of questions.
Great. So looks like we still have some answers trickling in here, so I'll just leave it up. But yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for panelists. Thanks for